and there is an opening in the roof, and that's the way how we can come into the house. So I come down the ladder that was here, like that, in the wall, and then leaning in the floor, leaning on the wall and up to the opening. So I come down and I step on this step here, and then there is a nice platform behind me, and there are very important things behind me in that little niche on the wall. It's like a shelf where important things are put, and I have to be careful not to damage any of that. So I step down, and this is the kitchen area. The line here shows where the kitchen begins on this side. And so I walk down the kitchen, and I don't want to get that way because that's where the oven is, and it's hot and a little dirty around there. But then I have to come to this edge, and here we have a big threshold, and it's really white and beautiful, and it has spots of red paint down here on it, indicating that this is an important area. And so I have to clean my feet a little bit, and then I step into the central area, and that is a large open area, which is very important because that area connects all the other areas in the building. So this is the central point in many ways, and we all walk through this area, but we, not all of us walk everywhere we want in this area. So some people, like the older people, only are allowed to sit on this platform or sit and sleep on this platform, because this is where our ancestors were buried, and so this is a sacred place in the house. And the same goes for this platform as well. And so we children, we are allowed to play in the middle and sleep in the middle, and we are allowed also to go in the areas where food is kept, stored, and prepared. And so what I would do, I would come here to the central area in this phase of the building, and you can see here we have a lot of floor remains of the storage bins, and you can imagine these storage bins had walls like that. We had 4 of them. One is missing completely, but they were later on they were cut by us, truncated, so that we could put a new floor on top, and that we wanted that floor to be as low as possible, not to be very high up, so we truncated the sides of these bins. But when the bins were in use, they had the walls, and they had a lot of stored food inside, dry food, seeds and beans and lentils and so forth. So, and in front of me I had a little screen wall up to here built, so I had to lean over that and get some of this food and put it in a basket, and then put the basket here on this floor, and then I would clean that. I would clean that and prepare it for cooking. And then I would go, I would step on this platform, again over a ridge that indicates that this space, this floor is not the same as that floor. This floor is dedicated to different activities. And so I would come here and I would put my seeds into a boiled pot, ceramic pot, with water, and then I would put it on top of this oven. This was our oven. It had flattish roof. It had a roof that was up to here, and so we could warm and cook food on the roof of the oven, or put it inside. And this is where the opening was. So we would put food inside and bake it or whatever. And then we would clean it after that. We would clean the ashes and remains of wood and collect it in this little area, this little feature here. And then take those ashes, put them in another basket, take them out of the house and keep them in a pile in a special place, from which we would take these ashes when we needed them to do for a variety of purposes that we use ash. We use it for putting it in a special parts of the house when we are doing a rebuilding of the house. And we use it a lot for when we want to clean certain surfaces. We use ashes to clean the surfaces with, and so forth. What else? I'm just getting too
central period.
Just getting too much into this.
It's great. It's great. The other thing was just talking about why you didn't go over these special places, because maybe
right.
your aunts or uncles or whoever were buried.
Yeah, well, yes.
You
You
want to
want me to
area
talk
again?
about this, why
Yeah.
we were buried here, the children were buried here,
Yeah.
and our ancestors were buried here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all right. So this big platform, you see, even now I cannot step on it. I just stand near it. This big platform was our biggest and most beautiful and most important platform in the house. It was very high up in comparison with the rest of the floors. And it had a wall next to it, this little wall, and it was painted. The wall plaster was painted in red, and that whole surface was painted in red. And the platform was white, as I said. And our ancestors were buried inside, and we had 3 very important people from our family buried in here. And we did have one child buried, but that child was very special because it was the child of our oldest ancestors that we remember. And so when this child died as a little baby, it was decided by the family to bury the child in this adult platform, so to speak. The rest of the children were in the family were buried here in the central area, and they were buried. We had 3 children buried here. One in this area, one in that area, and one in the central area. They were buried more or less, these 2 at the same time, and the one in the center was buried slightly earlier, a couple of years earlier. And so they were about 9 years old. These 2, 8, 9 years old, and they were in a position like this. And one was holding it hands like that, and the other one, well, something like that, right? But otherwise, everything, in every other respect, they looked exactly the same. And the child that was buried in the center here was buried in a basket. It was a baby, buried in a basket, and had bracelets made of beads, and each arm had a different beads on it, bracelet made of different beads, and it was buried with a box in which was painting tools, and these are body painting tools, we believe. It was one nice bone needle, and then some traces of red paint, red minerals used for red paint or for blue and green paint. And there was a shell in which most likely they were mixing these minerals before they were painting with them.
Where were the 2 skulls found?
The 2 skulls, yes, that's important. So the central space of the house was really symbolically important also. And when people decided to abandon the house and not live in here any longer, they built another house and moved on to live in that other space. This area was dedicated to be our midden, in which we would deposit all our trash. And we were doing it starting from the beginning here. And this is where the first trash came in. And in this area, we also wanted to mark that area, and to connect spiritually with the house. So we left in the house 2 skulls that were lying right here.
Slightly that way, right in the middle.
Right here, okay. 2 skulls of our ancestors were positioned there, and then next to it we had a big cranium, and this is the head and the horns of a cow, big cow, right here. And we also a part of old fire installation or oven put next to it, because the oven marks also the domestic space, the home, marks home and ancestors from that home, and a very sacred and important animal, which is a cattle. And so part of the cattle was there too.